Hi Year 10. Today what we're looking at is statistics, and we're reviewing statistics, and we're going to look at sorting data. So a large amount of data needs to be tabulated, which is organized into a table so that it can be analyzed. So a common form of a table is the frequency distribution table, and we can also group data by dividing it into groups, especially when we have a large range of data. So here is an example of a frequency distribution table. For a frequency distribution table, we have 5 columns. We have the outcome, tally, frequency, F times X column, and our cumulative frequency column. So what our outcome column is that's the score. So for this frequency distribution table, we have somebody has recorded the scores 1 to 7 and the how many times that those scores have occurred. Then we have the tally column. So that tells us how many times 1 has occurred, how many times 5 has occurred, and we do it in the form of tally strokes. Then for our frequency column, or our F column, what we have is how many tally strokes. So for outcome 1, we have 4 tally strokes. We have a frequency of 4. For outcome 2, we have a frequency of 3. For outcome 3, we have a frequency of 2. For outcome 4, we have a frequency of 1. For outcome 5, we have a frequency of 3. For outcome 6, we also have a frequency of 3. And for outcome 7, we have a frequency of 4. What we then do once we have worked out the frequency of each outcome is we add up our frequency column to get our total. So we go 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And we get our total frequency to be 20. This means that we have 20 scores here. For our F times X column, what this means is our frequency times our outcome, or our score. So for our first one, we go our frequency of 4 times our outcome of 1, which is 4. Then we have a frequency of 3 times our outcome of 2, which is 6. Our frequency of 2 times our outcome of 3, which is 6. Our frequency of 1 times our outcome of 4, which is 4. Our frequency of 3 times our outcome of 5, which is 15. Our frequency of 3 times our outcome of 6, which is 18, and our frequency of 4 times our outcome of 7, which is 28. Once we have worked out our F times X column, we then add these together. So we go 4 plus 6 plus 6 plus 4 plus 15 plus 18 plus 28 gets us a total of our F/X column of 81. Moving on to our last column, our cumulative frequency, or our CF column, is our frequency all added up. So what we do is we pick up our number in our frequency column and we put it in our cumulative frequency column. Then what we do is we get our next score, our next frequency, which is 3, and we add it to our cumulative frequency above it. So we go 3 plus 4, which is 7. We then have our next score or frequency of 2, and so we add that to our cumulative frequency above it of 7. So we have 9. Then we have a frequency of 1, and we add that to 9 to get 10. A frequency of 3, we add that to 10 to get 13. A frequency of 3, we add that to 13 to get 16. And a frequency of 4, and we add that to 16 to get 20. Now, it's really important to note that our total of our frequency column and the last number in our cumulative frequency column are to be exactly the same number. If they are not exactly the same number, you can recognize that you have made a mistake somewhere. And remember, it is okay to make mistakes. Mistakes allow thinking to happen, and they help us develop a deeper understanding of what we are doing. So don't be disheartened if you do make a mistake here. So we have completed the frequency distribution table. Now what we are going to do is we're going to use what we've learned in previous lessons and calculate and find the range, mode, mean, and median. So to calculate the range, it is the highest outcome minus the lowest outcome. So our highest outcome here is 7 minus our lowest outcome of 1, so our range is 6. Our mode is our most common outcome. So this is the outcome that has the highest frequency. And in this case, 1 and 7 both have the highest frequency of 4, so they are both the mode. For our mean, it is calculating the average. How we do this is it's the sum of our F times X column divided by the sum of our F column. So this is why we calculate those totals. So it's 81 over 20, which equals 4.05. And finally, our median is our middle outcome. Now, how we work out our median is that we use our cumulative frequency column to work out where our middle score would be. So for this, we have 20 scores in total. So if we were to think about this, it will be the score that's between 10 and 11. So if we look at our cumulative frequency, we have our 10th score occurring at the outcome of 4. And our 11th score will be occurring at the outcome of 5. So that means our median is going to be 4.5. Moving on, we're going to look at grouped data and the frequency distribution table of grouped data. So here's an example. For group data, we have 6 columns. So we have the class center, the tally, the frequency, the F times CC column, and the cumulative frequency column. So this is very similar to our normal frequency distribution table. There's just a few things that are different. So for our class, we have 6 classes here. The first one is 1 to less than 5. Okay, so that's what that means. So that less than symbol means that it's all the scores between 1 and 4, or all the scores that can be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then our next class is 5 to less than 9, so that's our scores 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we have 9 to less than 13, so 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we have 13 to 17, so that's 13, 14, 15, 16. Then we have 17 to less than 21, so that's 17, 18, 19, 20. And then we have 21 to less than 25, so that's 21, 22, 23. 24. So what we need to do now is work out our class center. So the class center is the outcome that is the center or the middle of the class. So how to calculate the class center is what we do is we add the lowest outcome in the class and the highest outcome in the class and then divide by 2. So our highest plus our lowest, so in this case we have 1 plus 5 divided by 2 equals 3 for our first class. Then we have 5 plus 9 divided by 2 equals 7 for our second class. Then we have 9 plus 13 divided by 2 is 11. Then we have 13 plus 17 divided by 2 is 15. 17 plus 21 divided by 2 is 19, and 21 plus 25 divided by 2 is 23. We then have our tally column and our frequency column, which work the exact same way as a normal frequency distribution table. So we first have a tally of 3, then 6, then 7, then 1, then 8, then 5. And we add this up to get a total of 30. We then have our F times our CC column. So instead of having our F times X column, we have our frequency times our class center. So this first one is our class center of 3 times our frequency of 3, which is 9. Then we have our frequency of 6 times our class center of 7, which is 42. Frequency of 7 times our class center of 11, which is 77. Our frequency of 1 times our class center of 15, which is 15. Our frequency of 8 times our class center of 19, which is 152, and our frequency of 5 times our class center of 23, which is a frequency of 115. So again, we add this column up and we get 418. Our cumulative frequency works exactly the same, so we bring our frequency across for the first one, which is 3, and then for our next one, we bring our frequency across for our next row and our frequency down. So 6 plus 3 is 9. Then we go bring our 7 across, bring our 9 down. 7 plus 9 is 16. We bring our 1 across, bring our 16 down. 1 plus 16 is 17. We bring our 8 across, our 17 down. 8 plus 17 is 25. And we bring our 5 across and our 25 down to get our cumulative frequency of 30. And again, these numbers should be exactly the same here. So again, if your total of your frequency and the last number in your cumulative frequency column aren't both the same, you have made a mistake, and that is okay. Go back and redo it. See if you can find where your mistake is. Now, what we're going to do is we've completed the frequency distribution table, and we're going to now find the range, the modal class, the mean, and the median. So the range is the highest outcome minus the lowest outcome. So the highest outcome here could be 25. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 25 minus our lowest outcome here could be 1. So with group data, we actually don't know the scores. If you were given the scores in like a set of scores at the start and had to put them in, you would use the highest score there and the lowest score there, but we don't have that right now, so we go 25 minus 1 to get 24. Our modal class is our most common class. So instead of having our mode, like we did for a frequency distribution table, we're now talking about our most common class. So the class that occurs the most or has the highest frequency is our 17 to 21 class. Our mean is our average, and it's exactly the same as our average or our mean or our frequency distribution table. However, it's the sum of our F times CC column divided by the sum of our F column. So we go 410 divided by 30, which is 41 over 3, which is 13.7. And finally, our median is our middle class. So for this, what we're doing is our middle would be, we've got 30 scores, so half of 30 is, because 30 is an even number, it's going to be in between two scores. So it's going to be between the 15th and the 16th score. And so our 15th and 16th score occur in the class of 9 to 13.